Good day. Happy winter's day. Happy solstice. The day is getting a little bit brighter. If you're coming here to meditate today, I encourage you to take this time to just sit and be with however you're feeling. I like to let the live video run for a little while to give people a chance to show up, but I like to use the beginning of our time to just show up. So take some time to get comfortable, make sure you're warm enough, make sure you're in a comfortable position, and just feel your body, feel your breath. Be with yourself however you are right now. You can show up and manifest as Santa, which I look like today. May this visage of Santa fill you with love and safety. A paternal figure who is always judgmental but kind and generous. Again, if you're going to sit with us and meditate today, just take some time to be with however you're feeling. Sit and close your eyes if you like. Feel how your body feels. Notice what the sounds around you sound like. If you have any questions, you feel free to ask them. And remember that the content that I produce is not meant to be entertaining in the way of today's culture. I'm definitely one of those people that encourage you to notice how uncomfortable you feel and try to be with that. Notice if there's any pain in your body or your heart or your mind, and just see what it feels like to sit with that and let that be as it is without trying to get rid of it or fix it. And per today's teaching, if you feel any discomfort, fear, pain, see if you can be kind to yourself for living with that, carrying it. So, I will get into teaching now. There have been practices for probably as long as people have been aware of their emotional state with any kind of intelligence that we can put a little bit of effort into, let's say, having a healthier emotional posture. So to liken this to something physical, because emotions can be nebulous for a lot of people, if you are sitting all day or standing, if you don't think of ways to align in a healthy way your posture, you will be in a lot of pain after not a very long period of time. And the same can be said of emotions, that if you just kind of let them do whatever they want, which is to a certain degree what we have to do. We can't really control emotions. But we can put some effort into having a healthier emotional posture. When I was young, and many of you have encountered this many times throughout your life, I assume, I read that smiling takes less muscles than frowning, and the simple act of smiling releases brain chemicals that make you happier. And probably with the impatience of youth and an untrained mind, I would smile, desperately hoping for it to make me feel better, and feeling like it failed immediately and going back to being unhappy. I learned through Taoism a practice called the inner smile that I have taught when I was in Mexico, and I think there's a recording on YouTube, probably on Facebook as well. And I will teach it again in this series. And it's very similar to what I'm going to be teaching today, which is a little bit more elaborate, and it has the process of understanding a healthy emotional posture and choosing to practice being in that posture. So those of you who have done yoga can understand that an asana is a posture, and we may not, like however my posture is my natural posture right now. I was introduced to yoga at 18, and with the awareness of, I think I had an awareness of posture before that, but yoga gave me a very articulate, lots of different points of awareness to be aware of about my posture. And I can still sit in a somewhat natural posture, but if I want to feel like my posture is healthier, I can turn my tailbone down, bring my shoulders back and down, lift my head up and my neck up. And if I sit in that position, I can feel the tension. And if I can feel the tension properly, I can allow it to relax. And this is a good posture to allow the tension to be known and the tension to relax by giving oneself a touchstone, a awareness of what we would like to be, strive for. We can feel when we're out of alignment with it. So what I'm going to be teaching today, it's often referred to as metta, which is a simpler phrase. Some people, I don't know if people call it this, but I'm sure some people will call it loving kindness practice or Buddhist meditation, loving kindness in Buddhist practices. The Pali word, which is the language that the Buddha spoke when he was alive, was Bramaviharas, which is the divine abodes, or houses that gods would live in. And the idea with this is, if we hold this kindness in our heart, and we notice when we fall out of alignment with that kindness, we get really articulate with what kindness feels like, then we know when we're not being kind. So like the other practices that I've been talking about and any other meditations you've tried to practice throughout your life, if you know what calmness and peace feels like, then you know when you're not calm and at peace. If you know what clear seeing feels like, you know when you're not seeing clearly. So in the Bramaviharas, there are 4 known healthy postures for the heart to be in, positions for the heart to live in. The first one is called Metta, or loving kindness, and is often described the way that a mother would feel about her only child. There's concern and attention and a certain amount of sweetness and a certain amount of strictness, right? That you want to be kind, you want to be friendly, but you also want to care that your action is for the good of the person that you care about. The way, and actually I'll talk about how this is practiced after I give the introduction of all 4 of them. The second one is referred to as karuna, or compassion, as it is often translated. And that's being aware that everyone is in pain or everyone is suffering to a certain degree. So even people who appear to be happy, they have some great sorrow in their heart. Even people who are wealthy and look like everything's going their way, they're dissatisfied with what they have and they want more. There's infinite ways that people suffer. So compassion, karuna, is being aware that everyone is suffering to a certain degree, no matter how happy they look, and that our heart can be aware of that when dealing with people and dealing with ourselves. The third Brahmavihara, karuna, or often translated as sympathetic joy, is understanding that everybody also has happiness in their life. And the things that make other people happy may not be the things that make us happy, but that we should really honor and respect that people have happiness and that the things that make them happy are good for them. This is also a great antidote to jealousy, because instead of wishing we could be the thing that make people happy, or wishing we could have the things that make people happy, we can instead just connect with the happiness they have in their life, the happiness that all people have. People are happy for all sorts of reasons that wouldn't necessarily make us happy. The things we don't want makes them happy, it's fine. And we can kind of tune into it like a radio station, that people are happy, and let our hearts resonate with it, which is why it's often translated as sympathetic joy. And the fourth one is called equanimity, or upekkah, and it usually refers to this idea of being in balance. The Buddhist teachings often refer to karma in the way that everybody's heir to their own karma. That can be a little sticky if you study Buddhism and understand that Buddhism often talks about how there is no self to anything. There's no self to any person. Everybody is a part of the whole phenomena of existence unfolding, which is a really good way to look at things. But when you're dealing with a self and an other, the way that I like to talk about karma is everything that's happened from the beginning of existence to this moment that led to you existing is your karma. All of the wars and the famines and all the people who were in love or forced into marriage or whatever, the lineage of people that led to you existing as you are. And of course, you don't exist in a vacuum. You have family and friends, and beyond the family and friends, you have a gigantic support network of people you've never met and never will meet, who built your house and provide electricity and grew all the food you eat and made the clothes you wear. And so all of that, as it pertains to your moment in existence, is your karma. And whoever else you're dealing with, that is also true for them, that they have their own path from the beginning of existence to this moment, and that path will lead to the end of existence as well. It's a continuum, not exactly linear, but that's the way I understand karma. And I don't know if that's useful for you, but for upekkah, for equanimity, it's a nice thing to understand that there are a certain amount of choices we can make about our own life, but a lot of them we didn't make and can't really make. We can only make choices when we're aware, and we're not aware most of our life. We're distracted in other places. And when we are aware, we can only make the choices that are available to us either through habituation or what's present, reality. All that being said, it's very nice to be able to keep your heart in a state that what is unfolding is what is. And though I may care, because this is about heart connection, you want to be able to maintain presence, emotional connection with people and the world around you without breaking your heart over wishing you could fix it or change it or wishing it wasn't the way it was. I don't know, if you think of people you love making terrible life decisions, or a child who is going through a phase, let's hope, of doing a lot of drugs, right? And you see it's not healthy for them, maybe even just being addicted to the internet. You see it's not healthy for them. You can suggest they do different things. You can ground them, you can whatever, but what feels best is to care and to love them without trying to control their lives. Understanding that their path is their path, and that your love and your care can be whatever you bring to it, but you ultimately can't live their lives, and living your own life is tenuous at best as the amount of control you can have over it. So there is this one obviously gets the most talking because it's the most abstract, I think, in our culture, because there is a sense that we're all individuals and we can make of our lives whatever we like. That's part of the rhetoric of our culture. And although that's true to a certain extent, it's also not true for most people. They don't get the choice to make their life whatever it is they want it to be. They have to make a lot of compromises and settle for a lot, and are subject to a lot of exterior forces they don't understand and can't control. So balance, equanimity, the ability to care and to love without needing to control or change or manipulate, while still caring and remaining present. So metta, kindness, it's a friendliness, it's caring about the goodness of people. Upekkah kind of keeps it balanced, right? That you can care and you can help and you can love and you can be kind, but you can't fix anybody. You can't live their lives. So maybe this is like a cure for codependence. Compassion, understanding that we're all suffering in minute ways or in very large ways, and our heart can stay open. It doesn't have to shy away from the pain and the suffering. It can, like I said at the beginning of today's sit, you can feel the pain and the discomfort in your body, and you can be kind to it. You can be present to it. You can show up and listen and just be like, I hear that you're in pain, body. I love you, and I'm sorry you're in pain. I'm sorry you're in pain, heart. I'm sorry you're in pain, mind. You can, sympathetic joy, karuna, is also understanding that everybody's happy in the world. They all have happiness, even if they're not the same things that make us happy. Being able to connect with the heart, the emotional feeling of people being happy, and resonating with it. It can just make you very giddy and make you feel really good, which is great. But it also is reality. It is reality, just as is true that everyone's suffering, everyone is also happy. And being able to tune into those realities is very good skills to have. And then, of course, the upekkah, the balance, the equanimity of not being knocked over, not being bowled over, not having your life destroyed because of the outcome of an election, or a football game, or et cetera, but also on a more personal level, like understanding that we can love people, but we can't live their lives for them. So how do we practice this? So as I said earlier at the beginning, the mention about smiling, for practicing metta, we want to bring up the feeling of kindness and care. It's easy to start with happiness and we want to start with what's easy so that we really get the flavor. So if you think, the way that I would often teach this when I was teaching this to friends was, if you walk down the street and you see someone you haven't seen for a while, and I always like that because it's a gate, it's a hard gate. If you see someone that you really like, a friend, someone you love, maybe a family member or an old friend, and upon making eye contact with them or recognizing them, you feel your heart open and maybe bounce. And if you can imagine that scenario, think of someone you love, you haven't seen for a while, even if there's someone you keep in contact with regularly, you see them and you feel that opening in your heart and you connect with that happiness. And then you take that happiness and, in whatever way is natural for you, apply well wishes to this person. So, or as some teachers say, like if a person's hard for you, think of a dog or a squirrel or a tree or a forest, whatever makes your heart open in that kind of happy way. And you try to really get that feeling, and then you put some good intentions into it. So may you be happy, may you be free, may you the more complicated you get, the more complicated it is. So you try to keep it simple. If you feel the generosity of heart, I want you to be happy. I want you to be well. I'm glad you're here. I love you. And let that emotion, like sometimes it's just a little feeling in your heart. And so when you're doing this as a meditation, you want to explore that. You just want to sit, imagine someone or something that makes you happy, and wish it well. Let's take 5 minutes to do that. So again, whatever person or being or object brings a happiness to your heart. It's kind of nicer if it's alive, but if you're an animist, everything's alive. I love you, mountain. I want you to be happy. May you enjoy the sun shining on you today. I love you, forest. May you sleep well in this winter. May all you squirrels have enough to eat and be warm. So just practice that feeling, looking inside of your heart, wishing well. It comes to me that I want to speak to, what does it mean to look inside of your heart? I have a private Taoist client that I worked with last week who said, yeah, I don't really understand that. If you close your eyes and you imagine looking into your heart, that might work for you. If you want to picture the organ, that might work for you. Try to look and imagine you can actually see the organ inside your heart. Another thing that's worked for me throughout my life is that if I close my eyes and I try to feel what it feels like to see, if I can feel what it feels like to look at the back of my eyelids, and then I try to move that, like I try to feel where that feeling of looking, what does it feel like? Where is it? And then I try to move that to something also effectively able to feel, like my lips. I can lick my lips and I can feel what that feels like. And I can try to look at that with my eyes, and it brings more attention. So this doesn't have to be a visual experience for you. It's just about bringing more attention to an area. And then you move that to your heart. And again, trying to picture your heart, but not necessarily restricting it. If you're trying to feel your heart might feel like the organ. It might feel like the sternum. It might feel like the skin on the front of your chest. It might feel like your whole thorax, the whole like rib cage, muscles, tendons, glands, organs in your lungs and your heart, your blood. you might feel whatever you feel is appropriate. Because we're working on the heart posture today, I really want you to take some time to just feel what your heart feels like. If you can hear it beating, that's a good way to be aware of it. I'm always amazed at how difficult it can be to hear our heart beating. But it's not necessarily about hearing. It can just be feeling, whatever that means to you. So if we get a taste for that, right? You feel your happiness in your heart. Notice what that feels like. For me, it changes all of the sensations around my chest, the front of my chest, and inside of my ribcage. But I've been doing this for years. So you start with easy and subtle. Look for the subtle feelings. Can I feel happiness and care in my heart? And then how you do this as a practice is once you get the flavor, the sensation, you just try to be with it. Usually saying words is useful to people. It's not for everybody. There's lots of ways this has been taught over the years. Again, this is a whole meditation realm in and of itself. It's a huge teaching, so there's lots of ways to do this. So for some people, saying phrases helps. Maybe picturing a person. The way that these Brahmaviharas are often done, and this is not the first teaching, but it's a very common teaching, is that you picture someone that it is easy to care for. That can be different for every person. It can be a family member, or sometimes family members are triggering. It can be a friend. It can be a mythical person, or a person from history. If you have different relationships with prophets or teachers, or poets, or artists, or musicians, you can picture them, try to see them clearly, and feel the happiness that they bring in your heart, and care for them. I want you to be happy. I want you to be well. I love you. I'm so glad you exist. Thank you for being here. Saying these phrases frequently or infrequently, you can just say them a little bit and work with the feeling of the heart, because remember, we're going for the feelings here, not the words, but you use the words to push the feelings sometimes. I want to make the feelings grow, and if you can feel the feelings, I use my hands in Qigong a lot, and massage, and my whole history with my hands. So you can sometimes put your hands in front of your heart, see if you can tap into that feeling, and then just slowly make your hands widen a little bit and see if you can feel that feeling grow. But you practice it with someone easy, and you can do that for hours, and you can do that for weeks, months, until it's really easy and you really know what this kindness feels like. I'm so glad you're here. I love you, and I want you to be happy. As that sensation grows, it can spread from your heart to your whole body. And as that sensation grows, it can spread out of your body and just radiate out as wide as you can imagine. Your whole house, your whole city, your whole nation, continent, planet, solar system, etc. So that's the teaching. You start easy, and then you move on. So the reason we move on is because living in this abode, living in this heart posture, is what sets us free from suffering. Living in this kindness allows us to know when we're not being kind, and then just realign, reintegrate, readjust course. So the other ways that this is commonly practiced is, once you get really good at doing it easy, you know the flavor, you picture someone neutral. And again, that can be different for everyone. but a good example is a store you went to recently and you saw a person, a cash register or something. If you can remember their face, you don't know anything about their lives, you don't particularly like them or dislike them. They're just a person you've encountered, and you practice doing that with them. Nothing special, just another person in the world. May you be happy. I want you to be well. I care about the goodness of your life. I care about you being at peace. I care about you being free. That reminds me, in a lot of the teachings, the easy person is supposed to be you. In our culture, it's not usually that way, right? It's kind of hard for a lot of people to be happy, to be with themselves in our culture, and difficult for people to simply and easily wish well for themselves. It feels narcissistic, it's been pathologized, or I just have so many faults. I know all the faults about myself. How can I care about the goodness of myself? Whatever, it's often difficult. So if you find someone that is easier than you, if you're easy, give yourself all the love you can imagine. If it's not easy for you to be loving and kindful and present with yourself, do it with someone else, something else, a tree, a forest. But when you're practicing, make sure you let yourself receive it as well. And I just felt that acutely when I was thinking of the neutral person. And I was like, oh yeah, it's radiating through my body and it feels so good. So that's a good thing to be aware of. The next step, once you get comfortable with being this kind of kindness and goodwill to a neutral person, is to practice with a hard person. And again, that hard person can be you, or it can be someone in your family. It can be a public figure, politicians, actors, musicians. Again, it can be a neighbor. Actually, I know people that's the issue. It can be a family member. It's someone that makes you quick to anger, makes you quick to judgment, makes you quick to condemnation. And again, if we're honest with our emotions, it's one of the things that's lovely about listening to kids talk is they haven't really learned about being polite. So they'll be like, I hate you. I wish you were dead. Like how quickly it is our hearts to like, oh, that hurts when I'm feeling my heart right now, just saying that feels terrible. It makes my heart clamp. But it's so easy for us to feel that about people in our lives, people that we love. It is actually very easy for us to hate people we love. So if you've had a relationship with someone that you come to hate them and you still love them, they're a really good person to practice with. But if that's too hard for you, which it very often is, you can start with an easier hard person and think of public figures that are hard for you, public figures that it's easy for you to hate. And just practice being kind to them. For me, I think it's easier to practice being compassionate with them first, but we'll get to that in a minute. So you practice someone easy, yourself if that's easy, or anything else that's easy for you to be happy and care about. And then you practice with someone who's neutral, or something that's neutral. And then you practice with something that is hard, or someone that is hard. And again, you are looking for the emotions, the feelings of the heart opening and caring and wanting goodness for these people. And then you practice with all beings, all existence, whatever all you can conceptualize. So all things that are alive, the most common way that it's termed is all sentient beings, but I myself am more of an animist, so I like to include all things that are alive, plants, trees, rocks, the earth, the lava, the oceans, and all the stars and all the planets. I like to get big, cosmic, and some people it's easier for them to start there. So that's also an interesting thing you can explore is what it feels like to just have your heart open and let it expand with kindness, goodwill, care, happiness for all of creation, all of existence. And when you're practicing, you can do all four of these stances, all four of these postures in one sitting, or you can take the slowness and the time to do one at a time. But they all work together, right? When you can be happy with one person that it's easy for you to love, and you can be happy with someone that you don't particularly care about, and you can be happy and caring and kind towards people that you don't really like, and you can be happy and kind and caring to all of existence and all of creation, and there can be some snags around there. You can be like, well, I love all people, but I don't particularly like my state or my nation or whatever. Everybody has different snags. You work with it and find the way eventually to just let the heart unconditionally be kind, loving, and friendly. And then again, that helps you in every moment of existence when you get triggered to be angry, to have your heart close. And if you know how good metta, loving kindness, open-hearted, friendly care feels, then you will be less likely to indulge in the things that make your heart hurt. You'll be less likely to indulge in hatred and closed-heartedness. So that's why this is a really good practice. Now let's move on to the other three Brahmaviharas real quick. So I hope you got a taste with that little bit of talking. And I encourage you to try it while I'm blathering. The blathering is an important intellectual process, but the emotional experience is what we're going for here. So, compassion. This might be easier to start with yourself, but you start with someone easy. You think about you feel how much you care for them first. So you have that heart connection. Metta is a really good place to start. You have this heart connection with this person, yourself or someone else. And then you bring your awareness to how they're suffering. And it can be a acute, present, real thing, like they have arthritis or tinnitus or hunger or mental illness. I don't know. Infinite reasons, and you try to connect with the reality of living in that pain. I love how immediately my voice sounds like it's going to cry. And the healthy stance with compassion, with karuna, is not to fall into someone else's pain and misery. That's not a healthy posture. And that's one of the reasons we practice. Because anyone who wants to look at the misery in the world will find infinite examples of the misery of the world. And it is not healthy to ignore it, but it is not healthy to drown in it either. It's not really healthy to wallow in it. But this is a practice. It's a meditation. It's a really good opportunity to safely practice connecting with the misery of the people we love. So again, think of someone easy, yourself or a teacher or someone who inspires you, someone alive or dead, a family member, friend, etc. And you really connect with their pain. And you keep your heart open. And let's see if we can just feel that for a minute. So again, you may want to start with, I love you, I want you to be well. Words can be like, I wish you were free of pain. I wish you were free of suffering. Or just, may you be free of suffering if you want to remove the selfing from it. May you be free of suffering. May you be free of misery. May you be free of mental illness. May you be free of hatred. May you be free of depression, whatever. May you be free of pain. But don't let the words do the work. Just use the words as support. Feel the person Feel your love and care for them. Feel their pain. Gently. Don't dive in. Touch it. And then let your heart open. I love you and I want you to be well. May you be free of suffering. And in these kind of somatic practices, it's very important to notice where in your body you feel this and try to be acute with it. Like, see if you can give it a texture or a color. Try to just really look at it as it is. Don't project stuff onto it, but what does that care for their suffering look like? Where do you feel it in your body? If it's not just in your heart, is it in your legs? Is it in your feet? Is it in your shoulders? Notice where you feel it. And again, nourish that experience of feeling the suffering. And then connect more with the feeling, being aware of their suffering. And again, the well-wishing, the care of wishing for them to be free of that suffering. So the way that I feel that right now is I do feel it in many parts of my body. And when I was able to really connect with this person's suffering, not my own, someone else's, when I was able to really connect with this person's suffering and feel the earnest desire for them to be free of it, I felt my body relax. And this is, again, just relating human experience. Being aware of people's suffering, there's a lot we can't do anything about. Nothing we can do. So we tend to want to avoid it and resist it. And avoiding does take effort. Avoiding is resisting, and resisting creates tension. As a masseur, a lot of people's tension is that, just the simple resistance to the suffering of themselves and the world and their loved ones. Like, I just don't want to be aware of it. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to know it. So they lock up. So me connecting with the suffering of someone I love and care about and really getting into their misery and earnestly from my heart wishing them to be free of it relaxes my body, sets me free. So again, from a selfish standpoint, if that's where you're at, or not even a selfish standpoint necessarily, but you could say realistic, practical level, right? A practical effect, caring about other people's suffering, being honest and present with it, and connecting with the goodness of our heart for wishing them to be free of it, frees us of our resistance and fear. I think it was from the play or movie Brighton Beach Memoir. I remember when I was very young seeing somebody tell this story of not being able to say the word cancer because the whole family was habituated in that way, in the way that a lot of people are habituated not to talk about death or other diseases. You just don't talk about it, or you find weird euphemisms to talk around it. It builds up so much fear. and so much pain. And that's suffering on top of suffering on top of suffering. So that's why this is a good practice. Now, instead of practicing it with a neutral person right now, let's practice it with all people. So just go into your heart, close your eyes, and you don't need to think of all the suffering in the world, but let's just talk about hunger. Many of us are very fortunate to have not ever really experienced hunger. We've felt like, I'm hungry, I'd like to eat some chips, or, oh, it's time for lunch. But like not eating for days, if you've ever done that, maybe I've only ever done it on purpose, right? That I've fasted. So let's just see if we can close our eyes and connect with all the people in the world that don't have enough to eat, either in this town or this country, or all the countries in the world, or faraway places we've seen on TV. So see if you can feel the pain in your heart of people who don't have enough to eat and are living in hunger. And wish for them to be free of that hunger. Wish for them to have, well, no, just wish for them to be free of that hunger. Don't worry about solutions. Connect with the suffering and the goodness of your heart. To honestly want them to be free of that suffering. And one of the reasons I'm teaching this today is I feel like it is such a good skill to have, and it is such a win-win situation. By connecting with these divine abodes, these places of the heart, ways of the heart, they're good skills to have, and they just bring so much more body integration and health. Okay, we're going to move on to mudita, or sympathetic joy. So this is a good balance to karuna, compassion, right? If you want to really connect with the misery of the world, it's very good to connect with the happiness of the world. So there's a story that was told to me during one of my meditation retreats that I really liked, that there was some town in some place in Asia. Don't remember if it was Bhutan, if that's what the story was. But there was a town that had a mudita bell. And it wasn't attached to a place of worship per se. It was just a tower with a bell in it that had a rope hanging down that anyone could ring. I like that, you know, so many of my association with bells, like church bells, come to church. People would ring this bell when they felt happy, when something happened that made them happy. And everyone in town, when they heard the bell, would take a moment and share their happiness. Which I just think is like, oh man, what a good thing to have, right? And if we look properly, we could find that on social media. You can look through Facebook and see people's adventures, vacations, meals, family events. You can see misery, of course, but you can see people trying to share their happiness, and you can practice sharing their happiness. When I was doing this practice in meditation retreats, I liked practicing over things that don't make me happy, but that make other people happy. One of the examples that I had was washing a car or mowing the lawn. These are not things that make me happy. They're not things that I care about. But a lot of people in the world, it really makes them happy to have a clean car, to have spent the time cleaning their car and have a clean car, to have a nice lawn and look at the lawn and be like, what a nice lawn. It brings them happiness. So you can, any number of things, fashion or food or whatever, that may not be important to you, but is important to other people. That's the reason I like that as a point of practice, is that this isn't necessarily about just resonating with our own happiness. This is about resonating with the happiness of other beings, heart connection. So if it's easy for you to resonate with your own happiness, start there. Again, if there's someone else that it's easy for you to connect with and have your heart open with, you picture them and you bring up to mind something that makes them happy, something that makes them happy, a nice sweater, a good meal, getting a massage, I don't know, going for a walk, and you picture that person being happy. And you try to let your heart open and connect with the happiness in their heart. And again, this is about getting the flavor of that happiness. Really, what's it feel like? What's it look like? What's it taste like? Whatever senses are fired off by this for you. What's it sound like? People who talk to their pets. Oh, kitty. And you can jump from object to object, or you can just, really resonate with one person, one moment, one experience, but whatever way works for you. I'm just letting you remember that. Really notice what that happiness feels like and let it grow. Let it be however it wants to be. Give it as much room as it wants to have. Phrases that are used for this is, may you have the conditions, or the things, or the conditions is the most vague and useful term. May you have the conditions that bring you happiness. May you keep the conditions that bring you happiness. So again, those phrases that very much change the quality of it, because it integrates, or it engages the heart in that well-wishing. I'm picturing people I know with smiles on their faces and occurrences happening, and I'm wishing them to have that. May all you listening have the things in life that make you happy. May your hearts be free to be happy. May you appreciate the goodness of your life when it's happening. May you appreciate the goodness of life. May all beings be happy. So again, that can be a great practice to balance off many things in life. But sometimes it can feel a little too giddy, a little too bright, and you want to balance that off, right? And that's another place. Upekkah can be used in all of the other three as a balance, because it's all about balance. But now we'll practice upekkah. So again, I gave a lot of talking about it earlier, and see if you can connect with that sense of life unfolding. Again, start with someone easy. Think of someone that your heart can open to, and you connect with them, and you say, I love you, and I want you to be well. Your life is your own. Your decisions are your own. If it feels good to you, you can say your fate is your own, or your destiny is your own, or your karma is your own. If those terms mean anything positive to you, you can use those. And again, this is definitely not about disconnecting. It's not about becoming apathetic. I was going to say it's not about distancing, but there's a certain amount of distance that happens. There's still the connection, but there's if you think of a teeter-totter, you have to be in the right distances from the fulcrum to balance. So there's a certain amount of spaciousness. If you feel really sticky with someone, you can say, I cannot live your life for you. Though I love you, I care for you. I want you to be well. I want you to be happy. I want you to be free of suffering. Your life is your own. And then let's take these last few moments to reconnect with just the metta, the kindness, the well-wishing. And let's just see what it feels like to give it to ourselves. And you can picture yourself or try with your inner sight to see your whole self, whatever that looks like to you. And say, I'm happy. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy you're here. I love you. I want you to be well. And just see what that feels like. I love you. I'm glad you're here. I want you to be well. May you be free of suffering. May you know peace. May you be free of misery and the causes of misery. May you be happy. May you have the things in life that make you happy. May all the things that you want happen in the way that would make you happy. May you appreciate the goodness of life as it is. May you be at peace with life as it is. How quickly I switched from first person to second person. Let's try that again. I love me, and I'm glad I'm here. I want me to be well. I'm happy to be here with myself. May I be free of suffering. May I be free of mental suffering. May I be free of emotional suffering. May I be free of physical suffering. May I be at peace. May I be happy. May I have the things that make me happy. May life be the way that I'm happy with. May my heart resonate with the happiness in the world. May I accept life as it is. May I appreciate the goodness of life. May I see life clearly. May I understand life clearly with balance and peace. May I be a force of good in the world. May I know what I can do and what I can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you for your time and your presence and your effort. May this benefit you and all you come in contact with. Thank you. Namaste.